Empress Dowager Cixi was born in 1835. At 16 years old, she became the consort of Emperor Zhen and later gave birth to a son. After the emperor died, her son took the throne at only 5 years old, and Cixi became the Empress Dowager and began to lead an extravagant and luxurious life. Cixi lived in the Palace of Gathered Elegance, which is in the northwest of Inner Court in the Forbidden City. Her palace consisted of 2 main parts. The Palace of Gathered Elegance was where she lived, and on the other side was the Hall of Harmonious Conduct, where she usually had dinner there. In 1885, this palace was completely restored and redecorated for the 50th birthday of Cixi, which costed 630,000 taels of silver, approximately $20 million today. The Palace of Gathered Elegance was divided into 5 rooms, 2 west rooms, 2 east rooms, and 1 central room. The 2 west rooms were connected. The outer one was her bedroom, while the inner one was her changing room. The 2 east rooms were her praying room and tea room. The central one was where Cixi met her guests. In the morning, before Cixi woke up, her lady-in-waiting would carry a bowl of hot water and wait at the door of her bedroom. After getting up, Cixi would wrap her hand with hot towel for a moment, which would make her skin soft. She then washed her face with hot towel to reduce the wrinkle. Cixi then sat in front of the dressing table. The lady-in-waiting helped her put on some face powder and blush powder. Then a eunuch would come in to make her hair. The eunuch took out a set of hairstyling tools to make her hair, and at the same time told Cixi some interesting news in the palace to amuse her. After doing the hair, Cixi would retouch her makeup. The lady-in-waiting would then prepare her jewels, clothing, socks, and shoes. Cixi had a lot of expensive dresses. Many of her silk clothing were embroidered with high-quality pearls. Her socks were also made of silk, which was not elastic at all, so it had to be perfectly fitted. The lining also had to be straight, otherwise they would fall and looked horrible. It required high sewing skill and took 7 to 8 days to make just 1 pair. However, no matter how pretty the socks were, Cixi only wore it once. Every year, she needed 3,000 workers to make socks for her, and it costed 10,000 taels of silver a year, which is about $300,000 today. After the grooming, the lady-in-waiting would prepare the hookah for Cixi to smoke and helped her to light the fire. Then she would enjoy a cup of tea with milk. She especially liked cow milk and breast milk. At the same time, the kitchen prepared different kinds of congés, soups, drinks, biscuits, and braised meat for her breakfast. After the breakfast, she would have a tea and hookah. Then the lady-in-waiting would lead her to the changing room to change her hair accessories with expensive pearls and wear a cape with colorful phoenix. Everywhere in the palace, there was a large jar containing fresh fruits for Cixi to smell. Because Cixi didn't like the smell of incense, instead she liked the aroma of fruits like apple, pears, and peaches. Some said Cixi used over 150,000 apples every year. Then a sedan chair arrived and ready to take Cixi to the Hall of Mental Cultivation, the center of governance and political administration. Usually she went back in 2 hours. First, she went to the changing room to take off the heavy hair accessories. Then she would have some snack and a cup of tea. Sometimes she received greetings in the central room. The inner east room was the tea room. She had tea and sometimes met the emperor and other consorts here. The outer east room was the praying room. Cixi was a Buddhist. She had a lot of images or statues of Buddha. She also stored her expensive treasures here. There was no washroom in the palace. The lady-in-waiting would bring Cixi a chamber pot. Cixi sat on the toilet chair, which had a hole on the seat under which the chamber pot would be placed. It was filled with charcoal ash. When the business was done, the dirt would immediately be covered by the ash. Every day the eunuch would scrub and clean it, so no matter in summer or in winter, there was no odor in the palace. There were various types of chamber pots. The most common one was made of porcelain, while Cixi's one was made of sandalwood carved with a large gecko and decorated with jewelries. The toilet paper was also carefully made by the lady-in-waiting. They cut a soft white cotton paper into smaller pieces and then spray a little water. The spray had to be very fine, finer than the mist. After that, they ironed the paper twice to make it clean and tidy. Cixi didn't have a fixed time for bath. It was usually after the dinner. There were 4 ladies-in-waiting to bath Cixi. Every time she took the bath, she needed 100 towels. The upper body bath and the lower body bath were separate. First, Cixi sat on a chair and took off the upper body clothing. The lady-in-waiting used a wet towel and soap to clean her body. They had to change the towel a few times. For the lower body wash, another bowl of water would be used, and the process was more or less the same. Therefore, every time Cixi took the bath, 100 soft and luxurious cotton towels would be used. While Cixi lived in the palace of gathered elegance, she had dinner in the hall of harmonious conduct. Cixi had her own exclusive kitchen built within the Forbidden City. It was subdivided into 5 areas: the meat section, vegetable section, rice and noodle section, snack sections, and pastry section. The chef there could make over 400 kinds of pastries and 4,000 kinds of dishes. They could also cook the rare ingredients like the bear's paw. In every meal, Cixi would be served with 120 different dishes, but she would eat only 2 or 3 bites of some of them to prevent being poisoned. Then Cixi usually gave permissions to other consort officials or eunuchs to enjoy her unfinished dishes. During festive seasons such as Lunar New Year, there had to be 3 identical tables of food. The east one represented heaven, the west one represented the earth, so the central one represented the greatest person, Cixi herself. There were total 500 selected eunuchs to deliver the dishes on these special occasions. In leisure time, Cixi enjoyed opera performance in the Belvedere of Pleasant Sounds. It was built in 1776 and was repaired in 1802. Inside there were stages on 3 levels: the upper stage of good fortune, the middle stage of prosperity, and the lower stage of longevity. Cixi also came here to watch performance on special occasions such as the Lunar New Year and her birthdays. During Cixi's 50th birthday celebration, she watched opera here for over 7 days. It costed 110,000 taels of silver, which is about $3 million today. In 1908, Cixi died in the Hall of Ceremonial Phoenix. Her funeral was also lavish. The funeral activities continued for nearly 1 year. For example, a giant funeral boat was burned to ensure that Cixi's afterlife was happy and luxurious as well. The giant boat was made of high-quality wood and filled with paper effigies of life-sized servants. Cixi's grave clothes were also extravagant. Her robe was stitched with dozens of gold Chinese characters for Buddha. Originally, it was ornamented with a lot of expensive pearls. Her body was covered by a sophisticated quilt sewn with Dharani Sutra scriptures. Dharani Sutra is said to help people to escape from suffering and to obtain happiness. As a Buddhist, Cixi hoped for a happy afterlife by wearing this clothing. She was also buried with many jewelries and luxury items which were worth about 1.2 million taels of silver, approximately 37 million US dollars today. Cixi was finally buried in the Eastern Qing tomb, but sadly, despite how powerful and luxurious life she had, 20 years after her death, her tomb was stolen barbarically by the warlord Zhen and his army, until 40 days later, Emperor Puyi found her body and reburied her.